What do you think is going on in the skies?
I mean, it's tough. Every time I see a video, my opinion seems to change. I mean, I've recently been watching and spent some time with the videographer out of Long Island. I mean, he has orbs, these glowing orbs of light on camera that as you watch them right before your eyes, they seem to transform into a mechanical drone. So I've actually watched it myself where these orbs are glowing balls of light, different blinking lights all over the place. And as it gets closer to you, you actually see it transform into a drone. Whether it's a drone from the beginning and it's being obstructed by bright light, I can't tell you, but it is cause for concern. We have looked at flight tracker data. We don't see any airplanes in the skies. These things are absolutely some kind of phenomenon that's happening just over our homes. We need answers and we need them quickly.
Yeah, and that's so important to note that, you are looking at flight tracker data and not seeing records of this. So, Mayor, are you confident that we will start to get some definitive answers, whatever those answers may be?
I believe we're going to get answers. Calls for speculation as to whether they're going to be definitive answers or not.
Yeah.
I do take the president at his word. I do think that we are going to get some kind of disclosure. I've listened to government speak. I've listened to our state, New Jersey, speak. I've listened to the federal government speak, and they've been very specific at times. They've said things like, it's not our DOD, it's not our Homeland Security. And I've learned, in being in this business for a while, that when government speaks very specifically, listen to what they're not saying. So when they say it's not DOD and it's not Homeland Security, they're not saying it's not a private contractor. They're not saying a lot of different things there. So they're giving themselves some plausible deniability when they say things specifically like that. However, I'm still fairly sure that this is probably going to be our government assets. As the president said when he was president-elect, and even now, if it was a foreign adversary, I'm almost certain with $1 trillion military budget, we'd be able to take these things out of the sky. The fact they're not coming out of the sky and we keep seeing them, I truly believe that we will find out, whether it's sooner or later.
We have no idea what these objects are, and I'll just quickly add there was another series of incidents just a few months ago over key U.S. bases, 4 bases in the U.K. These are U.S. military bases, one of which is supposed to, allegedly, host nuclear weapons shortly. And the same thing occurred. Over several nights, brightly lit objects flew in formation, as many as a dozen at a time. And they resisted all counter-drone. Despite the deployment of some very advanced counter-drone technology, they resisted all of those attempts to take those objects down. Let me ask you, Marky, who flies dozens of objects over sensitive sites that have bright flashing lights on them?
That's my point. Question. I'm like, it's the craziest thing, Mark, that you have to your point, UFOs, we keep saying drones over Jersey. We don't actually know what these things are. It's the craziest thing in the world to me that we haven't gotten data or brought a single one of them down. I mean, how do you even begin to explain that for people at home who are wondering, who see these things still flying over their homes?
It's baffling. It's utterly baffling. The problem is, since there are no good answers, the story just goes away after a while. And my hunch is the answer is no. For those of us who have been following this drone, quote unquote, drone story closely, we've seen multiple incursions over the last 5 years now over very sensitive sites that have left the U.S. government, despite all of its advanced sensors and detection capabilities, utterly clueless. So we're dealing with what I consider a pretty extraordinary mystery.
But when reporters questioned him in the Oval Office for that day one update, he said he'd deliver. Mr. Trump looked to Wiles to find some answers.
I would like to find out what it is and tell the people. Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I mean, I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting.
Now, in December, there were reported drone sightings near the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, across that state, and in Pennsylvania, New York, and Connecticut. The unexplained drones and endless concerns from the public prompted the FAA to issue temporary drone bans over New Jersey and parts of New York. And reports of sightings declined rapidly, but President Trump believes there are still questions left unanswered.
One of two things is happening here. Either they're telling the truth, and that is something that obviously would be the biggest story in human history, or we have people in really important positions of government who are crazy and who are out there making up stories and who are still in positions of importance. People who we entrusted to do some really important things for our country are saying some pretty incredible things that I think we have an obligation to take seriously and listen to. All I've said is we have people that have very high clearances, both today and in the past, who did really important work for our government or continue to do important work for the government, who have come forward with some claims about the U.S. having in the past recovered exotic materials and then reverse engineered those materials to make advances in our own defenses and technologies. I will say I find most of these people at some point, or maybe even currently, have held very high clearances and high positions within our government. So you do ask yourself, like, what incentive would so many people with that kind of qualification, these are serious people, have to come forward and make something up?
People who have had firsthand knowledge or claim to have firsthand knowledge of seeing this type of thing?
Or have firsthand knowledge or firsthand claims of certain things. Some are public figures, and you've heard from them in the past. Others, have not shared publicly. All of them have, in many cases, understandings of different elements of this firsthand. Some of these people still work in the government, and frankly, a lot of them are very fearful of their jobs, fearful of their clearances, fearful of their career, and some, frankly, are fearful of harm coming to them.
Just about a year ago, for 17 nights, drones, I call them UFOs for a very specific reason, these objects, 17 nights in a row, hovered and flew over Langley Air Force Base, which is a very important air defense facility that houses F-22s, which are among the most advanced fighter jets in the world. The incursions were so brutally continuous that they had to move fighter jets out of the base to another facility. They had to task a special NASA aircraft equipped with some really advanced cameras to get a look at these things, and by all accounts, they got no data on these objects. Congress is furious. They're shocked. Those are direct quotes from key members of Congress. We have no idea what these objects are.
Mayor, what is your reaction to President Trump asking his White House chief of staff to immediately get to the bottom of these drone sightings?
It's absolutely welcome news. I mean, if we just back up a little bit, President Trump, even when he was President-elect Trump during his transition, he's been on the record now at least on 3 different occasions about these drones. The first time he did mention that our government knows and our president knows, and he wasn't sure why they weren't telling us. And if you understand how the transition works for president, our president-elect receives the same exact national intelligence briefing that our president does. So if it was a foreign adversary or something alien or extraterrestrial, I'm certain as president-elect he would have known. The fact that he doesn't seem to have that many details, and he was asked the second time about it, and that's when he said, well, I'm going to disclose it within my first or second day into office, tells me that if he's not briefed on it yet, it's probably not a matter of national security, or certainly not an alien invasion or anything crazy like that. More than likely, this is going to be our government or experimental drones that are up in the sky. I'm still waiting for that disclosure. I do believe, and I take him at his word, I do believe that New Jersey mayors and all the residents here in New Jersey are going to get disclosure, and it's going to come soon.
But again, when the government has no answers, these things just quietly go away, and they have been going away for 70, 80 years.
Yeah.